Greetings. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about email templates. We're going to be talking about email templates that convert, my best performing templates, some statistics, and misconceptions as well. So, as per usual, let's jump straight into it. So, I'm going to tell you the answer to this question, like what is the best template in Klaviyo and what is my best email template within the first minute, and then you can stop listening to the video and never return again if that's what you like. So the answer to the question is plain text. So if I had an e-commerce store that does like over 100K and it's not a very visual product, let's say supplements or coffee or something along those lines, most of my emails would be plain text. Maybe you could show the logo, and maybe, I don't know, a handwritten signature is something I love, like maybe an image of you at the bottom, and that is about it. So this is what I mean. This is literally an email that I recently sent to one of my clients, and as you can see, less than 10 hours left. It is the subject line, and it just says the thing. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines in this email. I need to like spell this out a little bit as well for the podcast listeners. And there's one clear call to action button, and that is it. There's no images, there's no distractions. Less is more. There's no better thing on the internet than email marketing that demonstrates better less is more. And the concept of, I heard this from Alex Hormozy, simple scales, fancy fails. So yeah, a lot of people have, my friend said it's really beautifully. It's, there are people who play business and there are people who do business. So I recently had a client where we didn't seem to have a, I don't only, I give it to you straight. I don't only talk about the good results. There's no such thing as an email agency that only gets good results. There are times when you're not a fit for whatever reasons with certain people. And I was just under the impression that they wanted to send only the perfect emails, in which case they would send like one a year or something along those lines in terms of like output and in terms of like being picky. I think it's really important to understand. I think Gary Vee said it as well, done is better than perfect. Obviously, I always try to create the best emails possible for you. So yeah, for example, there is just a collection of emails I was involved with. This template is a little bit of a, I don't know how many compliance checks it will take, but yeah, it's let's just say intimacy niche, and there are beautiful email templates that we've been involved with, and that's all great. But just in my experience, if your product isn't super visual, which is kind of limited to like jewelry and fashion, if you're in any other niche, I think it makes sense to use simplified emails, especially if you make less than, I don't know, 1 mil per month. If you make less than 1 mil, like it makes sense for Zara to send beautiful emails, okay, or Dior. It makes sense. And yes, you can definitely make the argument that maybe they were, it comes back to like a philosophical question as well about, like, would Dior have become this successful if probably the owner or the founder wasn't a perfectionist? You could argue no. You could definitely argue that with Chanel. There's definitely an element of like perfectionism is like kind of helpful when it comes to like creating when you want to be at the cutting edge and stuff. But at the same time, um, there's no like, I don't know. This is something like maybe for another discussion and probably outside of my pay grade of like what's the best approach. I haven't built an 8-figure e-commerce business at this moment in time yet. So when it comes to these kind of things, take my thoughts with a grain of salt, I guess. Um, but it's just been my experience that people that are less picky, like my best performing clients, have been significantly like easier to deal with compared to the smaller guys, let's say, who, let's say, they make like 10K per month revenue, by the way, in e-commerce, which the average margin in, or like a good margin in e-commerce is like 20%. A lot of people, especially drop shippers, make a lot less than that. So that, and then they want to create branding like Apple, or they want to create every email has to be super perfect, which is just not the way for you in that moment in time, just in my experience. You could definitely argue the email should at least match or elevate what people see on your website. So like if I go to your website and then I see your email, it's not the best look if your emails, let's say, lower your brand equity. So I understand that point, and there's definitely some room for nice designs. So for the podcast listeners as well, I'm showing an email that in my opinion is pretty neat and sharp. There are like some moving parts. It's really, I just think it looks sharp. There are professionally made edits in here. I'm not a designer. Design is probably the least strong of my email marketing skills, which is why I have two amazing designers at the moment. I like things that are clean and minimal. Um, and yeah, I mean that's about it. So there are multiple statistics. So for example, here just Gemini brings it up. Plain text emails can achieve up to 21% higher click to open rates and 70% higher click through rates compared to HTML emails. And also they are simpler, less work involved, and it's just beautiful. A lot of people think the more effort you put into an email, the better it will perform, but quite the opposite. And oftentimes as well, by the way, like if you look at this email, it's like very clean and it looks, like not everyone is marketers like us. So there are people, especially if you're targeting a older audience, let's put it that way. It's just how technology and culture works. A lot of them will think that you've personally written this email to you, which is obviously a benefit. No, we don't want. I don't encourage like lying to your customers or anything like this, but it can definitely feel a lot more personal, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it is a more personal approach, and like you can add all of these detailed things such as an image at the bottom, something that looks professional with a handwritten signature, something that I really like personally. Above the fold is gold is an old school marketing saying. So that means before people would have to scroll, they need to see a call to action button. So as you can see, since there is no header image, this call to action button is beautifully placed here. It will come up also on mobile devices. Every single email has to be designed mobile first, unless you're in a really weird niche, like for example, like 3D printing, where actually most of your audience is on computers. But in 99% of niches, you're going to have more traffic from mobile devices. And I'm seeing way too many people design their emails for desktop first. And then they think about, oh, yeah, right. Like we should do mobile version too, and just design it for mobile. What looks good on mobile will most often look pretty, at least pretty decent on desktop devices. As you can see as well, like when we do a fully designed email, we still have above the fold is gold, above the fold call to action button. There should always be a call to action button, almost always, on header images. I'm just saying in like I'm talking in absolute terms because I'm trying to make these videos as easy to implement and understand as possible. Like trying to give you some like general rules of thumb. So above the fold is gold. Always have call to actions buttons there. Focus on the simple things, and this is like many of my competitors will not be happy for me to tell you this, but it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, like an email, a lot. We like to over grandiose email marketing a lot of times, and think that and there's definitely a lot of knowledge that goes into it and knowing like what can go wrong. But in reality, if you, let's say you have an e-commerce store that does like 50K per month, let's just say a simple example, and I don't know, you're not, for example, if you, I used to work with this celebrity who was in a very big, who is in a very big female singers band in the UK, very similar to Spice Girls, let's put it that way. And for them, they weren't making that much money because they didn't put that much or generate that much traffic to the website. But I understand for them, like we need to make the emails like really pretty, right? Because it can like really impact stuff. But if you started at a Shopify store a year ago and now you scale up to 50K and you sell supplements, which is actually a relatively difficult niche because of the legal side of it, and you send an email where there's, like one clear message. um there's no like super major like weird things in the email, like actually swearing can be pretty okay in emails, and it's a good place to do it if that's aligned with your brand. mm, like massive typos, like really stupid things, and a call to action button, like when they click on a link it works and it goes to your website somewhere. That's a pretty decent email, just in honestly, like in my opinion. Okay, obviously when we create an email, I want to make it as good as possible for clients, but I'm just trying to manage expectations here as well, in terms of like, you don't need to overthink it. Okay, like, that's the place I guess I'm coming from. So I don't want to make this video or podcast episode any longer. If you got this far, I love you. Thank you so much. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and um, give a thumbs up, all of that, and comment, and share with your friends who you think could benefit from this. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.